Nobody knew her whereabouts.
And the residence of Miss Grinstead, do you recall the address of her residence?
300 West Park Street.
And what county is that in?
Irwin.
Is that here in the city of Osceola?
Yes.
Now, when you arrived there at the residence of Miss Grinstead, what did you notice there? Who was there when you arrived?
When I arrived, Chief Hancock, I remember him being there, Joe Portier.
Now, when you arrived there, where did you park?
Across the street from the residence, in front.
I'm going to show you, have it ready here. I'm going to show you what's previously been entered into evidence as State's Exhibit 40.
All right, y'all see that, ladies and gentlemen? Thank you.
Now, Mr. Bars, are you able to see that exhibit in front of you there?
Yes.
And what is that in State's Exhibit 40?
That's 300 West Park Street.
And is this how it looked when you arrived that day?
Yes, sir.
Now, when you arrived there at West Park Street, Ms. Grinstead's residence, did you meet and speak with Chief Hancock at that time?
I did.
And after speaking with Chief Hancock, what did you do?
I at first walked through the residence just to see if anything stuck out to me, assess the scene that was there, and then I began to collect any possible evidence that was on the scene and take photographs.
All right. You said that you went through the residence and you took photographs.
Yes, sir.
I did. That's where they are. I'm going to show you a series of photographs. That being exhibits 45 through 54. And asking you to look at each one of those, and once you've had a chance to look at those, you'll just kind of let me know, please, sir.
Okay.
Are you familiar with what's shown in each of those photographs?
Yes, sir.
And how are you familiar with what's shown in those photographs?
I'm the one that took the pictures.
Now, do each of those photographs, generally, what do they show?
They show the interior of 300 West Park Street.
And do each of those photographs truly and accurately depict the residence of Ms. Grinstead as you saw it in October of 2005?
Yes.
Judge, at this time, I would tender State's Exhibits 45 through 54.
No objection. Thank you for being admitted without objection, state 45 through 54.
Now, Detective Bars, I'm going to show you what's marked as State's Exhibit 45. Are you able to see that on the screen before you?
Yes, sir.
And can you tell me what we're looking at there in that photograph?
The television in the living room, or the television area in the living room.
Now, within the living room itself, did anything stand out of importance?
No, sir.
In State's Exhibit 46.
Still in the living room area.
And in this particular photograph, did anything stand out in that photograph or that area that you saw?
No, sir.
State's Exhibit 47.
Living room area.
And State's Exhibit 48.
Living room area.
And State's Exhibit 49.
That'd be the front door.
Now, what is the purpose of this photograph?
To show there was no damage or no apparent forced entry into the residence.
So when we're talking about you didn't see any forced entry, when we say that word forced entry, what are we talking about?
Busted door jams, dig marks, scratches, anything broken in that area.
And you did not notice that on the front door?
No.
While we're on that topic, did you look for that in other areas of the house, at the back door or other windows?
Yes.
Did you notice any signs of broken windows or doors kicked in or anything like that?
No.
In State's Exhibit number 50, 50.
The inside of the front door, or where it would meet the door jamb.
All right, so is that the kind of the alternate of State's Exhibit 49?
Yes.
And with regard to the inside of the front door, did you notice anything regarding forced entry there as you discussed?
No.
State's Exhibit number 51.
Living room area.
And State's Exhibit 52.
It's the living room area.
And State's 53.
We moved into, it looks like the kitchen area.
And State's 54.
That was in the edge of the kitchen area.
Show you another series of photographs previously shown to the defense counsel. Just all of those. That State's Exhibits 55 through 69. And ask if you'll look at each of those, please, sir. Unless you have a chance to review them, if you'll just let me know.
Okay.
Those photographs and exhibits?
Yes, sir.
And are you familiar with what's shown in each of those photographs?
Yes, sir.
And generally, what do each of those photographs show and depict?
The interior of 300 West Park Street.
And how are you able to recognize those photographs?
I took them.
And each of those truly and accurately depict the interior of the residence of Ms. Grinstead as you saw it in October of 2009.
Yes.
Judge, at this time I would tender states 55 through 69.
Any objection? Thank you. Those are admitted without objection.
Mr. Bars, I'm showing you on the screen here what is State's Exhibit 55. If you will, tell us about that photograph.
It's the kitchen area.
That kind of is in the same area as where we saw State's 53
Yes.
and then also State's 54. Is that
Yes,
right?
sir. That's correct.
I'm going to move you into another location in State's 56.
Okay.
If you'll tell me what we're looking at here, please.
That would be Ms. Grinstead's bedroom.
Now, what did you notice inside the bedroom?
There were clothes, maybe not strode would be the correct word, but there was a few clothes over here and some clothes over there and just some stuff laying around. Nothing that really screamed, you know, something's wrong here type thing.
Okay. And State's 57.
That would be the bed in the same bedroom.
Now, in what state did you find the bed?
In that state that it's in right there in the picture.
Okay. I guess let me ask you this: was it made or unmade?
Unmade.
State's 58.
Ms. Grinstead's bedroom.
And Exhibit 59.
Ms. Grinstead's bedroom.
And State's Exhibit number 60.
Ms. Grinstead's bedroom.
Now, what did you notice about the chest of drawers here?
That they were pulled out, but nothing that really screamed anything at me.
Okay. State's 61.
I believe that's right outside of Ms. Grinstead's bedroom, but I can't be 100% sure.
And State's Exhibit 62.
Bathroom.
And State's Exhibit 63.
Ms. Grinstead's bedroom.
And Exhibit 64.
Ms. Grinstead's bedroom.
And 65.
Ms. Grinstead's bedroom also.
Go back to 66.
The bathroom.
Is that going to be what we also saw in 62? Is that correct?
It is correct.
And then 67.
Also the bathroom.
And that's also depicted in 62. Is that right?
Correct.
And State's Exhibit 68.
That would have been in what I would call the extra bedroom. which would have been off the hallway from Miss Grinstead's bedroom.
All right, and State's Exhibit 69.
The same room, same bedroom.
Now, with regard to the residence, what room within the house did you notice that were the most things that you looked in? What room was that?
That would have been her bedroom.
With regard to the other rooms in the house, did you notice anything kind of out of place or anything of disturbance?
No.
With regard to the bedroom when you were there, did other people come in the house when you were there?
Yes.
And who was that?
When I was there, Chief Hancock was in there, and I think Mr. Portier came in also.
Now, you talked about the bathroom when you were in Ms. Grinstead's bathroom there. Did you notice anything in the bathroom?
Yeah, actually her cordless phone was laying on the floor, right in front of the sink.
And you said cordless phone. We've kind of moved along in technology. If you can, just tell us what a cordless phone is and what you mean by cordless phone.
One that don't have a cord attached, that you sit in a cradle to charge and you can take in and out and walk all over the house and talk on.
Now, with regard to that cordless phone that was in the floor of the bathroom, did you find a cradle, if you will, that it corresponded to?
Yes.
And where was that cradle?
In our bedroom.
And where in the bedroom was that?
Beside the bed.
And what, if anything, did you do with the cell phone after finding it in, the cordless phone, once you found it in the bathroom?
I looked on the caller ID to see the last number that was called on it.
And do you recall the last number called on it?
Yes, it was Nancy and Joe Redmond's phone number.
And who is that? Did you know
That'd be
person?
Marcus's mom and stepdad.
And what, if anything, did you do with the phone at that time?
I called Marcus off of my cell phone, and during our discussion of when the last time he seen Tara, so on and so forth, my cell phone started going dead. So I told him, I said, if my cell phone goes dead, I'll call you off of her home phone. And my cell phone did go dead, and I called him off of her home phone.
Off of that cordless phone?
Correct.
And what did you do with the cordless phone once you used it to call Mr. Harper?
I don't remember if I set it down or put it, I don't know.
Now, once you had gone through the interior of the residence, actually, let me find what I'm looking for here. Just 1 second. With regard to show you what's been previously admitted into evidence as State's Exhibit 20. Figure out which way. 26. Now, with regard to, you referred to the cordless phone and the cradle. Is that depicted in this photograph? Are you able to see that?
It is. It's right back there by the lamp.
All right. Is this the area where you're referring to, where I'm pointing now? Is that
Yes.
that area?
Yes.
Okay. After going through the interior of the residence, did you also go to the outside of the residence?
I did.
And did you collect any items of evidence there from outside of the residence?
I did.
And tell me about that, please.
There was a cream-colored latex glove laying approximately 15 or so feet off of the front porch in front of the house.
And were you able to see that, or did somebody direct you to it, or how did you come to
I saw it. I mean, it was in the open.
I'll show you what's been previously entered into evidence as State's Exhibit 44. Are you able to see that on your screen in front of you?
Yes, sir.
And where in that photograph was the item that you were just talking about, the glove?
It's right out there in front of the second stepping stone, right in the edge of that pine straw.
Showing you State's Exhibit 42. And is that the item that you're speaking of?
Yes, sir.
And is that the location was where you saw it?
Yes, sir.
And is that the location of it from which you collected it?
Yes, sir.
And what did you do with this item when you collected it?
It was placed in a evidence bag and placed in the cab of my truck.
When you say an evidence bag, what kind of evidence?
Paper evidence bag.
You say a paper bag, what color was it?
Brown.
Okay. With regard to that item, once you placed it into the evidence bag, the brown paper bag, and placed it in your truck, did you do anything to change the nature of that item?
No.
And what did you do with that item after you collected it?
After I collected it and finished photographing the scene, I took it to the police department and sealed it and held it and eventually turned it over to GBI agent.
Okay. From the time that you collected it there at the scene, October the 24th, 2005, put it in the evidence bag, took it back to your office, and turned it over to the GBI, did you do anything to change the nature of that item?
No.
Also, did you also collect a cell phone belonging to Ms. Grinstead?
I did.
Actually, before I do that, let me talk over this. There we are at the top. That's good. Show you the one at a time, I guess. Let's see. State's Exhibit number 71, and ask if you'll look at that, please, sir.
Okay.
And what is State's Exhibit 71?
It's a property evidence sheet listing the glove.
And with regard to whose department is this particular?
Oakville Police Department.
And is that an evidence receipt that you filled out, chain of custody form, regarding this glove that we're talking about?
Yes,
And does it have your signature on it?
it does.
And I'm going to show you what's been marked as State's Exhibit number 72, and ask you to look at that document.
Okay.
Are you familiar with that document?
I am.
And what is that?
It's a property evidence sheet from the GBI.
All right, and is it also, what is this property evidence sheet pertaining to? What particular item?
Latex glove.
And how are you able to recognize this particular document?
Because it's basically a carryover from that one where it was turned over to the GBI.
And with regard to this particular document, do you recognize your signature on this document?
It's right there where I printed it.
Okay. And with regard to, I'm going to refer you back to State's Exhibit 71. And with regard to that, the date, does it reflect a date that you would have turned it over to the GBI?
Yes, it says 10/26/05.
71 being the Osceola Police Department obtaining custody form for the glove.
Any objection to 71, Ms. Merchant?
No objection.
That's submitted without objection. Thank you.
I'm going to show you State's Exhibit number 70. Ask if you look at that, please. I'll show you State's Exhibit number 70 and ask if you'll look at that, please.
Okay. Okay.
Are you familiar with State's Exhibit 70?
I am. I would have no idea why Wally Parrish's name is up at the top of it with my signature on it. But I know that I did do a search warrant for the residence.
We're talking about the search warrant for the residence. What residence are we referring to?
300 West Park Street.
And so you did a search warrant for the residence of Ms. Grinstead to do the examination that you talked about?
Correct.
Thank you. Now, with regard to Ms. Grinstead, did you also take into custody a cell phone?
I did.
Show you what's been marked as State's Exhibit number 73 and ask if you'll look at that, please, sir. Are you familiar with State's Exhibit 73?
Yes.
And what is State's Exhibit 73?
A cell phone of Tara Grinstead.
And when you collected this item, did you place it in this bag?
No.
Okay. What did you do with the item when you collected it?
I put it in one of our evidence bags.
Right. And with regard to that, let me show you State's Exhibit 74.
Okay.
Ask if you'll look at that, please, sir.
Okay.
Are you familiar with State's Exhibit 74?
Yes.
And what is State's Exhibit 74?
It's an Osceola Police Department property receipt for the cell phone.
And how are you able to recognize that document?
It has my signature on it and in my handwriting.
And does it reflect that who you turned it over to? Sorry.
Yes, on November the 4th.
And who did you turn it over to?
Dominic Turner,
And what agency was he with?
Georgia Bureau of Investigation.
From the time that you collected this item and turned it over to the GBI, did you do anything to change the nature of this item?
No.
I'll show you what's been marked as State's Exhibit number 75. Ask if you'll look at that, please, sir.
Okay.
And what is State 75?
It's a property receipt from the GBI for the cell phone.
So, and it's a corresponding property receipt from the Osceola Police Department.
Correct.
And with regard to that item, is your signature reflected on that document as well?
Yes.
And does it reflect that you also turned the cell phone over to the GBI?
Yes.
States Exhibit 73.
The phone,
No objection.
that's admitted without objection, thank you.
And I would tender States Exhibit 74.
No objection.
That's admitted without objection. That's the property sheet, the Ocilla property sheet on the phone.
Yes, Your Honor.
It's admitted without objection.
Judge, nothing else this time.
Ms. Merchant, any cross-examination?
Yes, thank you, Judge. Is it Officer Bars?
Yes, ma'am, that's fine.
All right, great. How are you this morning?
Fine.
Great. Officer Bars, when you arrived at the scene at Ms. Grinstead's home, have there been a lot of people in and out of the home?
I have no idea what happened prior to me getting there. I just know that Chief Hancock and Mr. Portier were there when I got there.
When you got there, were the Harpers still there?
I don't remember if they were there or not.
What about Maria Hewlett?
No, I don't think she was there.
Okay. Did she arrive at some point while you were there?
She did.
Okay. And the Harpers, did they arrive at some point when you were there?
They did.
Okay. So when you arrived, it was prior to Hewlett and the Harpers arriving?
Yes, ma'am.
Did anybody else arrive while you were on scene?
Not that I remember.
Okay. And when those folks all arrived, did they go in and out of the house freely?
To be honest with you, I don't remember because I was doing my thing there on the scene.
Okay.
So I don't remember, to be honest with you.
Okay. Do you remember if they went in the house at all?
I don't.
Okay, fair enough. When you took the photo that the state showed you, let me find it. It was exhibit 26. It was a photo of a cordless phone. You testified earlier that that phone was actually found in the floor of the bathroom?
That is correct.
Okay, so when you took the photo of the phone, it was back on its cradle, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so prior to taking the photos that you did, the crime scene, alleged crime scene photos, prior to taking those, you actually moved the phone?
Correct.
Okay. Was there anything else that you can remember that you moved prior to taking a photo?
No, ma'am, not that I can think of.
Okay. The photos that were taken, they were taken later in the day though?
They would have been taken, I would say, within an hour of me arriving on scene.
Okay, so you moved the phone pretty quickly after arriving?
Yes.
And I know that you mentioned about the glove, you testified in direct that it was about 15 feet. Your police report says that it was directly in front of the front door steps. Do you remember that?
I do.
Would you think that your memory was better back then, closer in time to the event?
Probably so.
Okay, so if your report indicates that it was directly in front of the front door steps, would that be the most accurate?
It would be.
Okay. Do you remember the glove being fairly obvious to anyone who walked up to the front door?
Yes, ma'am, I would think so.
Okay. And I just wanted to be clear, there were no signs of forced entry that you noted?
No, ma'am.
Okay. And you also noted that there was no obvious evidence inside the home of a crime scene?
No, ma'am.
One other question. May I approach, Judge? Okay. I'm showing you what I marked as defendant's exhibit number 2.
Sure.
You can take a look at that.
Okay.
Do you recognize that document?
Can't say that I do.
Okay. Do you recognize it as a photo? Do you recognize it as Tara's house?
The flooring matches the other pictures that I have. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And you took a number of pictures that day, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And you turned all of those over to the GBI?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And in turn, they were turned over to the state?
As far as I know.
Do you believe that's one of the photos that you took of Ms. Grinstead's home that day?
No, ma'am, I don't think so.
Okay. You don't recall that photo?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you. Did anyone else photograph Ms. Grinstead's home that day?
Outside of myself and the GBI, I don't know of anybody else.
Okay, so you believe that someone at the GBI did photograph them?
Yes, ma'am, I'm sure they did.
Okay, so if we were trying to figure out who took the photo that I submitted to you, other than yourself, can you think of anybody else who took photographs?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Nobody, you can't think of anybody else from the GBI even that took photographs?
I don't know who would have done their work for them.
Okay. And so all of the photographs that you took though were turned over to the GBI?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And the photo that I showed you in Defendant's Exhibit 2, do you recall this being one of your photos?
I don't recall it.
Do you recall all of the photos that you took?
No, ma'am.
Okay. So if all of the photos that you took were turned over to the GBI, and that photo appears in those documents, would you have any reason to dispute that?
I wouldn't.
Okay. Great, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Nothing further, thank you.
Any follow-up, Mr. Reed?
Just briefly, now, Ms. Bars, with regard to that question about the glove being right out from the front steps, I mean, that's not mutually exclusive of where it was located and where your picture showed it, is that right?
Correct.
That is out from the front steps.
Correct.
Thank you. Nothing further.
All right. Any reason that Mr. Barr should be excused?
Not from the statement.
Not from the
All right, thank you for your testimony, Officer
Yes, sir.
Barnes. I'm going to excuse you at this time.
Thank you.
Only thing I'll ask you is please don't discuss the testimony you've given here to the jury this morning with any other witness to the case until the case is concluded, okay?
Yes, sir.
Thanks so much. You're welcome to stay, go, whatever you'd like to do. Call your next witness. Everybody okay? Y'all good?
Statement called Jeff Rossler.
Thank you. Mr. Rossler, is that?
Yes, sir.
Great. If you'll step up there before you're seated, raise your right hand for me, please. You swear or affirm the evidence you're going to provide in the hearing in this case can be the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, sir, I do.
Thank you. Please be seated and give your attention to Mr. Reed.
Can you tell us your name, please, sir?
Sure. Good morning. My name is Jeff Rossler,
And if you'll spell your first and last name for the court, please.
Jeff. Last name Rossler, Roesler.
And Mr. Rossler, how are you employed?
I'm employed with the Georgia Bureau of Investigation.
How long have you been employed with the Georgia Bureau of Investigation?
It'll be 25 years in August.
And what do you do for the Georgia Bureau of Investigation?
I am currently a special agent in charge. I'm in charge of our human exploitation and trafficking unit. So my current office, we investigate crimes of human trafficking for adult sex trafficking and then adult and child labor trafficking, as well as the financial investigative side.
Now, prior to coming into that role with the GBI, I want to direct your attention back to October of 2005. In what capacity were you employed with the GBI at that time?
At that time, I was a special agent assigned to our Region 4 office, which is in Douglas, Georgia. I was also the crime scene specialist over our Region 4 office.
When you talk about a crime scene specialist, what does a crime scene specialist do?
So they're charged and you get additional training in addition to being a special agent to concentrate on processing crime scenes, to learn what to look for, how to obtain it, how to document it, how to photograph it, how to interpret different things. So kind of an all-encompassing investigator when it comes to specifically crime scenes.
If you will give the jury the benefit of your training and experience that allowed you to do your job as a crime scene technician back in 2005, that's kind of an awkward question, but if you'll give them the benefit of that, please.
Sure. So a long time ago, but I've got over 660 hours of crime scene training in particular. Majority of those came through the National Forensic Academy, which is a 10-week all-encompassing class. Back then it was in Knoxville, Tennessee. I don't know if you've ever heard of the Body Farm, but there it's the Anthropological Research Facility. And so you have crime scene specialists from all over the country coming for 10 weeks together to learn from each other, but then to learn from world-renowned instructors as well, as far as anything having to do with crime scene specialists, whether it's taking photographs, whether it's blood pattern analysis, crime scene reconstruction, shooting reconstruction, just the whole gamut of processing crime scenes. So it was 400 hours total, and then I had additional training at the Georgia Public Safety Training Center, what was offered there, and then as a crime scene specialist within the GBI, we provide our own yearly in-services as well.
And I know it's kind of hard to kind of go back to 2005, but at the time of October of 2005, had you conducted many crime scene examinations at that time?
Yes, I had.
And did you testify about your analysis from those crime scenes in courts of law in the state at that time?
Yes, I had.
And when you approach a crime scene, let me do it this way. How does the GBI come in to work a case? How is that done?
Sure. So the GBI is a request agency. So for the majority of the crimes under the Code of Georgia, a local jurisdiction has to respond. So it's usually a police department, a sheriff's office, whoever has jurisdiction, they'll get to the scene, and for whatever reason, whether it's manpower, expertise, resources, just need some more help, whatever it is, then they have to request the GBI's assistance. So there's only a handful of people that can actually do that. So it's a police chief, a sheriff, the district attorney, a superior court judge, the governor, or the mayor of that town. They can request the GBI's assistance. So if a citizen has each regional office, we have 15, but there's 159 counties. So each particular region is responsible for a dozen or so counties. I believe in Region 4 in Douglas, I think we had 11 counties, but Irwin was not one of them. Irwin is currently and was then covered by our office out of Perry. And so, like we said earlier, I was the crime scene specialist. Back then, there was only one crime scene specialist for every work unit. And so when you were on leave or out of pocket, a family obligation, whatever it was, then it was the supervisor's responsibility to reach out to an adjoining region and ask for the assistance of their crime scene specialist. So that's actually how I got involved, even though Irwin County wasn't part of my my normal area of responsibility, if you will. Their crime scene specialist was out of pocket at the time, and so I was able to come and help out.
All right, and did you respond to Osceola, Georgia back in October of 2005 to assist in that manner?
Yes, I did.
All right. And generally when you arrive to a crime scene, what do you do?
So the big thing is you want to find the person who can tell you the most about the scene when you get there, and then you just document what you've seen as you get there, right? You can't go back and undo anything, you can't retrace any steps, you can't do anything like that. You just have to document what you see as you get there, and you do that through a variety of different ways. I always would like to, like I said, talk to the person that can inform me the most, and give me the best idea of what I'm kind of walking into, what it may or may not look like. And then you start with overall photographs. So you document the scene through photographs. And you take a good bit of them from every angle. You document the rooms, outside, interior, exterior. And then as you proceed and you locate what you think may be items of evidentiary value, you'll then take some more specific photographs of that. After that, I would like to take a sketch of the scene, depending on the crime, do an overall sketch. And so what that is it's to help us as investigators, but also help you as jurors kind of get a bird's eye view looking down into the scene and what it looked like at that time. And then you would just go through and you would take notes and then document what you see at that particular time.
And did you do that in this case with regard to the residence of Ms. Grinstead?
Yes, I did.
Now, with regard to that, do you also collect evidence there?
Yes.
And what kind of procedures do you go about collecting evidence?
So you want to, whatever the item is, you would take it and you would collect it, you would put it in a bag depending on the type of evidence that it is. If it was wet or anything that was, could mold or anything like that, you want to put it in paper. So anything wet or potentially having blood on it or anything like that, you would seal that into a paper bag. Then you would seal it with evidence tape. Then you would document what it was, your evidence receipt at the time. You place your initials upon it and the time that you collected it as well. And obviously some items that are like a CD or fingerprint cards, latent lift cards or anything like that, you could put those into a clear plastic bag and then have the same documentation on that as well.
Anything else we're going to show you? I'm sorry.
You need to take a break?
I'm so sorry.
No,
I can't concentrate.
You did exactly what I asked you to do. Let's take about a 10-minute recess, ladies and gentlemen. If y'all
Sorry.
adjourn to the jury room, we'll be right with All right, we'll be in recess about 10 minutes. Thank you. Be seated, y'all are fine. Thank you. All right, you can ask the jury to join us, please. Did just right. I bet y'all are getting to know each other very well in that little room, mate, aren't you? All right, we're ready to continue, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Rigby, you can continue with Mr. Rossler.
Ross, I'm going to show you a series of photographs, that being State's Exhibits 76 through 88. Ask if you'll look at those, please, sir.
Yes, sir.
Are you familiar with what's shown in each of those photographs?
Yes.
And generally, what is shown in each of those photographs?
These are photographs that I took of the crime scene as it was when I arrived.
Do each of those photographs truly and accurately depict the crime scene there, Ms. Grinstead's residence?
Yes, they do.
And just this time, I would tender States 76 through, I think I said 89, it looks like it's 88.
All right, 76 through 88. Any objection?
No objection.
All right, those are admitted without objection. Thank you.
Special Agent Ross, I'm showing you on the screen, I'm sorry, thank you. Showing you State's Exhibit number 76. Are you able to see that on that screen before you?
Yes, sir.
If you will, tell me what we're looking at there.
Sure, it's a medium range photograph that I took from the interior of the residence. So I'm in the living room shooting towards the front door. And that's the front door that's halfway open.
And the purpose of this photograph?
Just to document no signs of forced entry. And by that I mean if you would see like a door that was kicked in or a lot of brute force that was used, you would see damage to the door, to the door frame, anything like that. And this just is a photograph that shows that there was not any forced entry.
And State's Exhibit 77.
This is a medium range photograph from the interior of the living room area, a coffee table in the proximate center of the living room.
And State's Exhibit 78.
It's a photograph from the interior of the residence. This is also the living room, inside shooting towards the corner where the TV is located.
And State's 79.
It's also another medium range photograph of the living room area, just the opposite corner.
And if you'll tell us about State's Exhibit 80, please, sir.
Sure, it's another medium range photograph from the inside of the residence. So from there, if you proceed through the living room, you go into the kitchen area. So I'm standing in the kitchen area, taking a photograph of the back left corner. I believe that's going to be the southeast corner of the residence through the kitchen, and that door is actually leading into a laundry room.
And State's 81.
It's going to be another medium range photograph from the interior of the residence, stepping in through the living room into the kitchen area. This is a little bit further to the left having the a little desk area and the kitchen table.
And states 82.
So this is another medium range photograph. This is actually inside that laundry room where you saw, it's from the other side of that door that we saw a couple pictures back, shooting out towards the kitchen.
And states exhibit 83.
Sure, just a closer photograph of the sink, the side that had a dirty fork and 3 dirty spoons on the side of the sink.
And states 84.
A closer photograph of the other side of the sink with the drying rack.
And states exhibit 85.
A medium range photograph of the counter, just to the side adjacent to the stain bottle, as well as a curling iron and a scoop from a powdered laundry detergent.
And states exhibit 86.
This is also a photograph in the kitchen for the counter. Had a curling iron and then the trash can and some makeup.
States exhibit 87.
It's a closer photograph of the kitchen table in the residence.
And states exhibit 88.
So this is another medium range photograph. This is actually taken from within the living room, coming in the front door, walking straight through into that threshold of that doorway leads into the kitchen.
I'm going to show you another series of photographs, that being states exhibits 89 through 95, and ask if you look at those, please, sir.
Yes, sir.
Are you familiar with what's shown in each of those photographs?
Yes, sir, I am.
And generally, what do each of those photographs show?
The interior of the residence, they're medium range photographs. When I said I took overalls, and this is part of those. So this is actually going down the hallway into the back bedroom of the residence.
Do each of those photographs truly and accurately depict the interior of the residence as you saw it that morning in October of 2005?
Yes, they do.
At this time, I would tender states exhibits 89 through 95.
No objection.
Permitted without objection.
Agent Rossler, I'm going to show you states exhibit number 89. If you'll tell us about this photograph, please.
Sure. This is taken from just outside the kitchen area, going down the hallway leading to the west side of the residence.
States exhibit 90.
This is a medium range photograph of the back corner bedroom on the back side of the residence. This looked like a spare bedroom, computer type room. And it's just a medium range photograph of the computer desk and the computer. Yes, sir.
And are you familiar with what's shown in each of those photographs?
Yes, I am.
And generally, what is shown in each of those photographs?
There are additional photographs from the interior of the residence, some of the bathroom, and then the bedroom, the front corner of the house.
Do each of those photographs truly and accurately depict the scene as you saw it at Ms. Grinstead's residence in October 2005?
Yes, they do.
Judge, this time I would tender states exhibits 96 through 120.
Those are admitted without objection. Thank you.
Agent Rossler, I'm showing you State's Exhibit number 96. And if you'll tell us about this photograph, please, sir.
Sure, it's a medium-range photograph from just in.
And 99.
It's a medium-range photograph of the chest of drawers located within that same front bedroom. You can see the jewelry on top of it and the top drawer kind of open.
And 100.
The closer range photograph of that the top of that same chest of drawers.
And 101.
This is a medium-range photograph from just inside that bedroom doorway, going back towards the west corner, the southwest corner of the bedroom.
And 102.
Sure, that's a stand. It's a medium-range photograph of one of the stands inside the bedroom, that same bedroom, the northwest corner of the residence. That's specifically a stand with 2 books, a candle, a cross, and a little shoe polish thing that are noted to be off-center.
Now, there's an item on the floor. Are you able to tell what that item is from where you are?
Sure, you can see just beyond the stand on the floor, there's some shoes there, as well as a candle that's on its side, as well as another shoe shine applicator on the floor next to it.
In State's Exhibit 103.
It's a medium-range photograph from inside that same bedroom. This is shooting down towards the floor as well as the nightstand adjacent to the bed.
State's Exhibit 104.
It's a closer range photograph of the nightstand that was adjacent to the bed.
And while we're talking about a particular nightstand, did you notice anything about the lamp itself?
Yes, so can kind of tell from this photograph, but the lampshade was canted a little bit towards the east, so away from that back wall behind it. So I looked at it a little bit further and noted that underneath the light bulb, there's a little plastic piece, right? And so that plastic piece was broke, and so the lampshade was kind of canted. I turned the switch on, and it did not illuminate. I didn't swap out light bulbs or to see why it didn't work or anything like that. I just turned it on. It did not light up, and that was it. So the little plastic piece underneath the light bulb was cracked.
I want to direct your attention back to State's Exhibit 103. There is an item that is on the floor beside the bed. Can you tell me about that item, please?
So there's a magazine, a couple of magazines. There's also an alarm clock, little white alarm clock right next to the bed. There's some shoes. There's another candle kind of up under that seat if you look a little bit to the left.
And State's Exhibit 105.
It's a medium-range photograph from inside the residence, inside that same bedroom, taking a photograph down onto the bed.
And when you looked at the bed and the things on the bed, what did you notice about things there?
So there's some clothing items, blankets, quite a few pillows. You can see the white comforter on the left-hand side of it. Upon further examination, taking all the covers off, examining the pillows, everything, just doing a thorough job, saw what I thought suspected blood on the underside of that white comforter.
show you what's marked as State's Exhibit 125. And ask if you'll look at this, please. Now, with regard to State's Exhibit 125, were you able to recognize that item?
Yes.
And what is State's 125?
So this is the white and color comforter that you see in that photograph, placed into this bag. This is how I refer to it because it had suspected blood. It was packaged in paper so it could breathe a little bit, and had the case number, the evidence receipt number, the item number, and then the description where it was located. And then these are going to be my initials. What we'll do is when you place the evidence tape over it, you place your initials, part on the evidence tape, part on the bag to show if it's ever, the seal is ever broken, then you can document that. This was the way it was when I packaged it.
All right, and did you yourself package that item and seal that item?
I did.
And collect that item there from the residents?
I did.
The time that you collected that item and placed that item in this bag and sealed it, did you do anything to change the nature of that item?
I did not.
And what did you do with this item once you obtained it?
After I documented it, sealed it in the bag, then I turned it over to the case agent. Going back to, like I said, I was assigned to our office in Douglas. Perry covered the office, or the region and the county down here in Irwin, so I turned it over to the case agent. When a crime scene specialist from one region goes to another, they do their job and then they turn over the evidence. If this were to happen in Region 4 at the time, then I would have assisted the case agent as the crime scene specialist from my area. We would have communicated and kind of set up who was going to take care of the evidence, who was going to submit it to the crime lab, so on and so forth. But in this case, because it was an adjoining region that I did not normally work in, I turned it over to the case agent for them to take it further.
When you say you turned it over to the case agent with the GBI?
That's correct, yes.
Thank you. Yes, Your Honor, 125. Showing you State's Exhibit 106.
This is a medium range photograph from inside that same bedroom, and you can see a little bit better how the lampshade was canted a little bit forward.
And State's Exhibit 107.
Another medium range photograph of that nightstand there adjacent to the bed.
State's Exhibit 110.
It's a medium range photograph from just inside the doorway of that same bedroom. You see kind of in the middle of that photograph, you'll see like a L-shaped scale. It's an ABFO number 2 scale. And what that's documenting is there's actually a piece of pine straw in the middle of that rug. And so that scale is just to give it, to help the pine straw stand out as a measurement.
State's 111.
Just a close-up photograph of that piece of pine straw with that scale.
All right, so when we see 110, where is the scale and the pine straw in this photograph?
In the center of the photograph.
Is that going to be this area here?
Yes, it is.
And that is what we see in State's Exhibit 111, is that correct?
That is correct.
In State's Exhibit 112.
It's a medium range photograph from inside the residence, inside that same bedroom, from the corner, taking it across the bed located in the bedroom.
State's Exhibit 113.
It's a medium range photograph from that same bedroom, just closer to the threshold of the doorway.
State's Exhibit 114.
It's also a medium range photograph of that same bedroom, the front corner, from the threshold of the doorway into the bedroom.
And State's Exhibit 109.
This is a closer range photograph of that chest located, I believe it's the south wall of the bedroom.
Is that the same chest we see there in 114?
That's correct.
And State's Exhibit 115.
It's the medium range photograph of the corner of the bedroom, including the bed.
116.
The closer range photograph inside that same bedroom. It's documenting the blanket that was kind of up under the corner of the bed.
And 117.
It's a closer range photograph inside that same bedroom, specifically of the white comforter that is on top of the bed.
State's Exhibit 118.
A closer range photograph of that same white comforter on the bed.
State's Exhibit 119.
So this is another closer range photograph of that same white comforter after we kind of turned it over to where we located the suspected blood. So you can see that the ABFO scale, the L-shaped scale, right there next to the suspected blood, just giving you an approximate size of the stain.
And State's Exhibit 120.
That's another closer range photograph of the suspected blood on the white comforter.
And when we talk about the blood on the white comforter, that is what is contained in State's Exhibit 125, is that correct?
Yes.
Photographs, that being State's Exhibits 121 through 124. If you look at each of those books.
Yes, sir.
Are you familiar with what's shown in each of those photographs?
Yes, I am.
And generally, what do each of those photographs show?
They are photographs of the scene as it was when I got there, the exterior, including the carport, the vehicle, the door, and then a stone outside of the front porch area. That's correct.
And did you take those photographs?
Yes, I did.
And do each of those photographs, if you'll look at that, please, sir?
Sure.
And tell me about that.
Sure, it's a medium range photograph. I'm actually standing in the grassy kind of driveway leading up to the carport, located on the northeast side of the residence. A photograph of the vehicle located there.
State's Exhibit 122.
Closer range photograph of the vehicle with the license plate.
State's Exhibit 123.
It's a photograph of the back corner of that same carport, so the vehicle would be just to the left of me in this photograph. Taking a photograph of that door leading, that door actually leads into the laundry room as we saw it before, but you could see with the decorations in front of it, did not seem that it was readily used.
And State's Exhibit 120.
Sure, so this is a decorative stone that was located right in front of the front uncovered porched area as you would step up to go into the residence. This is located on the ground right next to it.
Now that we've talked about photographs, I'm going to talk about fingerprints. What do you do for taking fingerprints at a crime scene?
So a majority of the time we'd use fingerprint powder, fingerprint dust, and use an applicator and go over areas and try to develop any latent fingerprints that we're able to get at the scene.
And what areas do you typically process for fingerprints?
So depending on the crime, if you know something was touched, obviously you would give that time and consideration to process that. Into a scene like this where you don't know, I was responding to a missing person at the time, so you don't know really what's important and what's not. And so you pretty much have to process the whole house. So when you have to do an entire house, you concentrate, you do it, you do a really good job, but you concentrate on the areas that are normally touched, almost like high traffic, light switches, doors, door frames, doorknobs, handles, so on and so forth.
Now, with regard to fingerprints, are certain surfaces better for getting fingerprints from than other surfaces?
Yes.
And describe that for me. What would be better surfaces and what would not be a good surface?
So non-porous surfaces are technically better because when you see fingerprints, when we lift fingerprints, you're actually leaving behind, when you touch something, you're leaving behind oil and water that is coming through is being secreted through your glands, right? And so if you look at your fingers, what you see are the ridges, the little high parts, and you have the furrows that go down in between. And so you're leaving those anytime you touch something. Now, depending on how much of a secretor you are, the temperature, if you're very sweaty or not, or just ate some good chicken, that's what I like to say. When you touch something, you're going to leave some fingerprints that you could probably pretty much see. But if your hands are pretty dry, colder weather or anything like that, they kind of dry up in the wintertime, then you're not secreting as much, so it's a little more difficult. But obviously, if it's a porous surface, then what you leave behind will stay there. If it's a non-porous surface. If it's a porous surface, like a fabric or anything like that, well then it's going to be really difficult to obtain any type of a print from that.
With regard to Ms. Grinstead's home, did you process certain areas within her residence for fingerprints?
Yes, I did.
All right, and tell us about that, please.
So, like I said, use black fingerprint powder. There are different colors. For the most part, crime scene specialists will use black depending on the color of the surface. If it's a dark colored surface, then you could use a light or a bichromatic, which is like a gray and a black together, just to give yourself some contrast, to be able to see it, to identify it, photograph it, and then if needed, and then lift it.
Also, I'm going to show you what's been marked for identification as States Exhibits 126 through 132, and ask if you'll look at each of those, please. Sure. Judge, for the record, I cut open the bag myself during court. So.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And how are you able to recognize those items?
So this is the bag. These are the latent fingerprint cards. This is the bag I placed them in with my initials and the evidence receipt, or excuse me, the evidence tape that I initialed, like we spoke of earlier. And these are actual the lift cards. So when you use fingerprint powder, you dust it on a surface, and if you're able to locate the actual print, then you use, they have different kinds of tape. I've had more success with the clear tape. They have it's called frosted, but I had more success using the clear fingerprint tape. That's what you use, and you actually kind of put it over it, but you have to be very careful because you don't want to smudge the print when you're putting the tape over it. So you have to be pretty careful in doing that, and use some force to lay it across the print, smooth it out. Then you just take the tape off, and then you put it actually onto one of these cards. So you dust it, you find it, you put the tape over it, lift the tape off and put it on one of these cards. And then you document on the back of the card the time, the date, the case number, who lifted it. So it's got my name and at the time my badge number and the location where it was lifted from.
With regard to each of those items, are those items that you lifted there from the residence of Ms. Grinstead?
Yes.
Judge, at this time, I would tender State's Exhibits 126 through 132.
All right, those are all print cards.
Yes, Your Honor.
Any objection, 126, 132? Thank you, Mr. Burgess. Those are admitted without objection.
With regard to each of these items, Agent Rosser, I believe you indicate where they are, the location of where they are lifted from on the card itself. Is that right?
That's correct. There's a crude rough diagram.
And just for illustration purposes, this is State's Exhibit 126. Are those your initials on this item?
Yes, JR.
And with regard to the back of State's Exhibit 126, does that indicate, whose handwriting is that on the back of that item?
That is my handwriting.
And does it indicate the locations of where you lifted this particular print? Is that right?
Yes, you can see, like I said, it's a
Each of those come from the front door itself.
Yes, they came from the interior of the front door, so the inside of it.
To seek to obtain prints from other locations on the door.
Yes,
And were you successful in getting prints from other locations on the door?
I was not.
Now, with regard to looking at, and just so we're clear, that's the door we're talking about here, which is State's Exhibit 76. Is that the same door?
Yes, it is. That's correct.
Right. And those came from the interior, so that would be from this side of the door. Is that right?
That's correct. Yes, sir.
And did you try to get from the exterior of the door?
I did.
And were you able to lift any prints from the exterior of the door?
I was not.
Now, with regard to the residence, you talked earlier about the front door not showing signs of any forced entry. Did you look at other locations in the house for signs of forced entry?
Sure. There's the photograph of the other door in the carport, and that was locked and sealed. You can tell wasn't used primarily as the primary entrance to the residence, I would say. Because of the items located directly in front of it and behind it in that laundry room. And then overall photographs were taken on the exterior of the residence, which showed all of the windows were closed and secure as well.
And did you also prepare a diagram of the overall view of the residence?
Yes, I did.
And I'm going to seek to find it up here in all of this. Just one second. All right, Agent Rustler, I'm going to show you what's been previously admitted evidence as State's Exhibit number 5. And are you familiar with State's Exhibit 5?
Yes, I am.
And how are you familiar with State's Exhibit 5?
That's a sketch I did on the computer of the residence that we talked about. Where you take the overall photographs of the scene, then I'll document a sketch, and then we'll pretty it up some on the computer using technology to give the jurors an opportunity to see almost like a bird's eye view of the residence and the layout and where the rooms were located.
All right, we talk about how many doors are points of entry into the home regarding doors.
Sure. So there were 2 points of entry into the residence. You can see it's almost in the very center of on the bottom side.
Tell you what, Your Honor, may Agent Rustler come down and assist me down here. You can point on here. You can see. If you will, just show us the 2 points of entry regarding doors to the residence.
Sure. So this is the main door, the front door of the residence. It faces to the north. This is on the front uncovered porch. This is that photograph that we saw. The door was kind of halfway open. And this is also the same door that I was able to obtain the lighting lifts from on the interior of the door. The second point of entry was up here in the corner of that carport. And that's the one that had like the Halloween decorations in front of it. And on the other side of that is the laundry room, which we also saw the photograph of.
Now, with regard to the bedroom for Ms. Grinstead, where is that in this diagram?
Sure, that's located here in the northwest corner of the residence, the front corner. Yes, sir.
Officer at this time.
All right, Ms. Merchant, you can cross examine.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you so much. Let's do this next slide. Agent Rosser, we spoke previously. You spoke with Mr. Merchant previously, correct?
Yes, and you were on the call.
Okay. And so was the state at your request?
That's correct. Yes.
Okay. You did not want to speak with us without the state present?
That's correct.
Okay.
And it wasn't over on the side. I can't say how that happened. All I can do as the crime scene specialist to come in and document what it was and how the status of things as they were when I arrived. How it happened, I can't swear to that because I was not there.
And that wasn't my question. My question was, do you remember us asking if there was anything suggesting a struggle, and you responded no. Do you remember that?
I remember going through that question. So to say I remember specifically the sign of a struggle, no, I can't say I remember that particular question. I remember the conversation talking about the items on the stand, the candle being knocked over on its side.
Okay. Well, let's talk about that. The candle being knocked over on its side, was that something that you took into evidence?
No.
Okay. So if you've been trained as a crime scene investigator, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So if you thought that the candle being knocked over on its side was something of evidentiary value, would your training say that you should take that into evidence?
No, because I did not think a candle located inside the residence was evidence at the time. All I could say was its positioning, that it was located when I arrived, was worthy of being noted.
Okay. So it was worthy of noting, but it wasn't something that was worthy of actually being taken into evidence?
That's correct.
Okay. And was there any crime scene tape ever placed on the residence?
Not by me.
Okay. And you told us that that was something that you would have photographed if it had been placed?
Sure, if it had been placed when I arrived, then that would have been noted in the photographs that I took when I arrived.
Okay. And so since it's not noted, it's safe to say that it wasn't there?
Sure.
Okay. And in addition to the crime scene investigation training that you have, do you also have training on how to testify in court?
Yes.
Okay, and part of that training is how to be a witness and to look at the jury when you're speaking, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and so that's training that a normal lay witness might not have, but something that you as a GBI agent actually went through.
That's correct.
Okay. Were there a lot of folks the day that you were there? Had there been a lot of folks in and out of the scene?
I can't testify to what happened before I got there.
Is that something important to note as an investigator?
As the crime scene specialist coming from another region, I got there, I met with the person, Agent Bill Baudry, who at the time was assigned to help me with processing the scene. He had the information on the case. He's the one I met with and got the information pertaining to GBI has been requested to help investigate a missing person. So then he asked, hey, let's process the residence to see if there's any items of evidentiary value that can help identify a crime or the location of Ms. Grinstead. And so that's kind of where I started. That's where I came into it.
Okay. And since you mentioned items of evidentiary value, let's walk through that. You took a comforter into evidence, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And that comforter, you told us, had some light staining that you thought might be menstrual blood. Do you remember that?
I did not say menstrual blood. I said suspected blood.
When you spoke to us, did you not tell us that there was no way for you to differentiate between blood and menstrual blood?
That's correct. At the time, all I can do is say if it's suspected blood or not. There are presumptive tests that you can do to say if something is blood or not, but they're just presumptive. So when you think something is blood or could be blood, then you package it up and you send it to the scientists at the GBI crime lab.
But you even noted in your report, though, that you thought it could be menstrual blood.
I'd say it's suspected blood.
Okay.
I can't differentiate whether it's menstrual or anything.
And again, my question was not whether or not you can differentiate here today. It was whether or not you listed in your report that it was suspected to be menstrual blood.
Yeah, I have a copy of my report.
Which report are you referring to?
The GBI crime scene summary.
Can you tell us which exhibit?
89178.
Which exhibit number? I'm sorry.
14.
14. Great. Thank you.
You're welcome. Agent Rossler noted suspected blood on the underside of the comforter at one edge. The suspected blood was not visible prior to turning the comforter over, collected the comforter, and documented on the evidence receipt. Doesn't say anything about menstrual blood.
When you spoke to us after this incident, let's see. And the recording of the incident, of the conversation that we had, was turned over in discovery. I assume that you provided that to the state?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And in that is when you specifically said that it could have been menstrual blood and there was no way for you to differentiate.
Yeah, I can't differentiate between any type of suspected blood.
Okay. Right, I understand. So continuing on about the things that you did actually seize from the scene, you seized 7 different latent prints. Were you able to, or did you attempt to process any other area in the home for prints?
Yes, I did.
Tell us where you attempted to process.
Throughout the entire residence. Light switches, door handles, door frames, insides, interior and exteriors of the doors inside the residence.
Okay, and you were not able to obtain any prints from any of those locations?
That's correct.
Okay, and I know that you said you got prints from the inside of the door. Were you able to swab for DNA?
I did not swab for DNA.
Okay, and you mentioned on direct that you're able to get fingerprints because of secretions, oil and skin cell secretions, things like that?
That's what leaves the fingerprints, yes ma'am.
Is that also what leaves DNA?
Yes.
Okay, but you did not swab for any DNA?
No.
You noted in your report that there was no other suspicious blood in the house, correct?
That's correct.
And you even checked to see if there was a layer of dust, to see if there had been a cleanup?
Yes, that's correct.
And there was no cleanup evidence? There was no evidence that this scene had been cleaned up?
That's correct. And by that, I've worked scenes before in my past that people have used bleach and all types of chemicals and mops and really bloody scenes, and they've made efforts to try and clean those up. And that's pretty easy to see. But this, I used oblique lighting, and it's as simple as putting a flashlight on the ground and rolling it around, turn the lights off and you can see if there have been any disruptions or anything like that. Then I also used an alternate light source. It's called a Lumilight. And so there's different lenses. There's one, it's called just a bright white lens, and it's just like a super duper flashlight to help go around and see if you can identify any other items of evidentiary value. Then there's also one that's a meter, so it's a different wavelength that allows the light to pass through it. And you have these orange amber colored goggles that you look through, and it'll help luminesce any items of evidentiary value that you can't see with the naked eye. So I did that throughout the entire residence as well, and I did not note any items of evidentiary value.
So doing all of that fancy work that you did, all of that detailed work, you did not find any evidence of a crime scene cleanup?
That's correct.
You also noted you did not see any signs of forced entry on any of the doors or windows, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And the car, you did also go in Ms. Grinstead's car, and you noted that the vehicle was unlocked?
I did not go into her car. That was processed by Detective Bars and Detective Anderson, I believe. All I did was note in my overall photographs as well that the windows were up and the doors were unlocked.
Okay, so you ascertained that the doors were unlocked without actually going in the car?
Yes.
Okay. And did you process anything on the car?
I did not. Someone else did.
Okay. Let's talk about the glove for a second. When you arrived on the scene, the glove had already been taken by Officer Bars?
I don't know who took the glove. It was not there when I arrived.
Okay, so you did not see the glove. What about the cell phone? Did you see the cell phone?
I didn't know anything about a cell phone.
Okay, nothing about a cell phone. Great. When we spoke, we talked a lot about the doors and whether or not there were signs of forced entry. If the lock had been engaged, you told me you could not open it with a credit card. And when you're talking about the lock...
I didn't say I couldn't. I said I don't know if it could be done. I don't try it. I've never tried it. I've never tried picking one of those locks with a credit card, so I can't testify whether it could or couldn't be.
Okay, well, if you can take a look at, I think it should be on your screen, this area right here.
Yes, ma'am.
Is this the type of lock that would be on typically a hotel door, things like that, something that's locked from the inside?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and is that the type of lock that you could pick with a credit card?
I do not know the answer to that. I've never tried it. I've never asked anybody if it could be done.
So you think that, your testimony is that you think this lock might be able to be picked with a credit card?
My testimony is I don't know if it can or can't be. I've never done it. I've never tried it. And I've never asked anybody if it could or could not be done.
Okay. And in your experience as a crime scene tech, if that lock had been picked somehow, I mean, it's hammered to the back of the door, would you have seen evidence of that? Would you have seen some signs of forced entry?
I don't know, because I don't know if it can be picked or how it could be picked. So I can't testify to what it would look like if it were.
Okay. You testified that there was no signs of any breaking down or damage to the door though, correct?
That's correct.
So this lock right here, there was no signs of any damage to it at all?
That's correct.
Okay.
To the lock to the door frame.
The lock to the door or the door frame? Okay. And that same type of lock you noted was on both doors in the home?
I do not know if it was on the door inside the garage or not.
Just show you what I marked as Defense Exhibit 2. You testified earlier about the inside of that back door, and I just want to ask you some questions just about that back door. You said the inside was the laundry room, and it looked like it wasn't something that was accessible.
Yes.
Does that picture that I've shown you, Defendant's Exhibit 2, does that accurately reflect the inside of that back door?
Yes, it does.
Okay. I move to admit Defendant's Exhibit 2 in there.
Objection, D2.
Thank you. Thank you. May I call the judge? Sure. So this photo right here, this is the door, the back door that we're talking about?
Yes, ma'am.
And this is the stuff that's in front of that door?
That's correct.
Okay. And so this is what indicated to you, this and in addition, the stuff on the other side indicated to you that this door was not used?
Not commonly.
Okay. And you also noted that there was no evidence of forced entry on this door, correct?
Correct.
Okay. You testified on direct about the lampshade and you believed it was crooked or off?
Yes.
When you arrived on the scene, it was 5 o'clock on Monday evening, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And again, you don't know who was in and out of that house that day?
Correct.
Okay. Did you take that lamp into evidence?
No.
Okay. Did you do any fingerprint analysis or DNA analysis on that lamp?
I believe I fingerprinted it, yes.
You believe you fingerprinted it?
Yes.
What did you do with those fingerprints once you did that?
Did not develop any fingerprints.
I'm sorry?
I did not develop any fingerprints. Just
Okay.
the powder.
You put the powder
I
on?
believe I did, yes.
Okay, I understand. So you put the powder on to try and get prints, but there were no prints that you could get.
That's correct.
Got it. What about DNA?
No DNA. I did not test for DNA.
You did not even test for it. Okay, understood. In the photos that the state showed you, there was jewelry everywhere. Would you agree that that was in plain sight for anybody to see jewelry all over the house?
Yes, majority in the bedroom, yes.
Just 1 minute, Judge. So, this photo that I showed you, Defendant's Exhibit 2, it should still be up on your screen. Do you
Yes,
see
ma'am.
that these chimes right here?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And did those chimes also appear on the front door?
I believe so, yes, ma'am.
I'll show you. Those chimes right there?
Similar, yes, ma'am.
Okay. And would you agree that the purpose of putting chimes out like that is to alert you if someone's actually entering the door?
I don't know what the purpose would be. It could be, yes, but I didn't put them there. I don't have chimes on my doors. I don't know.
Thank you.
Follow up, Mr. Rickett?
Just briefly, Your Honor. Agent Rossler, back on direct your attention back to 2005, she asked you about doing DNA processing for touch DNA inside the home. Was the GBI doing touch DNA or swabbings at that time and testing at that time?
I don't believe so, but I can't recall exactly what year we started transitioning to that science when it came.
And and if you did swabbings on something, would you be able to get a fingerprint from it?
No, because you would essentially be wiping off any type of print.
Thank you.
Any further? Both of them.
I have nothing else.
All right, any region agent, Rossler shouldn't be excused. Good deal. Agent Rossler, thank you for your testimony. You're welcome to stay, go, whatever you'd like to do. You're released at this time. Just don't tell anybody about the testimony you've given to this jury with any other witness to the case until the case is over, okay?
Yes, sir.
Good deal. Have
Thank
a
you,
great
sir.
day. You'll be excused at this time. Everybody all right? Anybody need a break? Yes. All right, let's take about a 10-minute recess. Y'all will step. Oh, you're saying you're okay. Not, yeah, you want a break. All right. Good deal. Call your next witness.
State will call Bill Godfrey to the stand. He's also in our office, I believe.
All right. Good morning, sir. This is Mr. Baudry, is that right?
Yes, sir.
If you'll step up there, please, before you're seated, raise your right hand. You swear or affirm the evidence you're going to provide in the trial of this case is going to be the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do, sir.
Thank you so much. Please be seated. Give your attention to Ms. Hart.
Would you introduce yourself to the jurors, please, sir?
William Baudry Jr., I go by Bill.
And how are you currently employed?
I'm a special agent with the Georgia Bureau of Investigation
How long have you worked as a special agent with the GBI?
since 2000, August of 2000.
And where are you currently assigned with the GBI?
I'm now at the training center in Forsyth.
Yes, sir.
And I'm over GBI training.
Is that all of the GBI training?
It is, yes, ma'am.
Back in 2005, what was your job assignment with the GBI?
I was located at the Region 13 office in Perry, Georgia.
Did you have an occasion to be involved in the investigation of what was then a missing person of Tara Grinstead?
Yes, I was.
And when did you first learn that there was a missing persons case in Osceola, Georgia?
The morning, it was a Monday morning, October the 24th, when I got to the office in Perry.
Yes, sir.
That's when I learned that we had received a call from Osceola that there was a missing person.
Okay. And I guess to be, for the jury's edification, the Perry office, does that just cover Houston County?
No, ma'am. It covers multiple counties, kind of down I-75. We skip Cordell, but Bibb County, Peach, Houston, Dooley, Irwin, Ben Hill, several counties.
And so as an agent out of the Cordell office, was that the office that was assigned to investigate Tara Grinstead's missing person case?
The Perry office, yes, ma'am.
Now, were you what we would refer to as the lead agent in that case?
No, I was not.
However, on October 24th of 2005, did you actually go to the residence of Tara Grinstead?
Yes, I did.
Can you tell the jury about what time it was that you arrived that day, morning, afternoon?
Probably, I think it was around lunch when I actually got to Osceola.
Okay. And you said when you got to Osceola, did you go someplace before you went to Miss Grinstead's home?
No,
Okay.
no.
Were any other agents present at the residence when you were there?
Yes.
Who else was there?
Dominic Turner.
And then, do you know Jeff Rossler?
I do.
At any point while you were present, did Jeff Rossler arrive to process the crime scene?
Yes, he did.
In addition to Dominic Turner and Jeff Rossler, were any other agents present in the home that you can recall during the time you were there?
No, Agent Gary Rothwell was the special agent in charge of the Perry office. He was in Osceola.
Yes, sir.
But not right there in the residence.
Okay. When you were at Miss Grinstead's residence, did you have an occasion to look at her house phone?
I did.
And that particular house phone, what kind of phone was that?
It's an AT&T cordless phone with an answering machine built into the phone, but the handset is separate, meaning it's cordless.
And do either the answering machine portion or the handset have what we then refer to as caller ID?
It did.
Did you actually take that phone into evidence?
Yes, ma'am.
Prior to taking the phone into evidence, however, did you record the messages that were left on that phone?
I did.
And the messages that were left on that phone, that particular recording, was that maintained in the case file?
Yes, it was.
And as part of your investigation, did you or other agents working together, were you able to identify the voices of the persons who were listed, or who you actually heard on that caller ID, or excuse me, on that voice answering machine?
Some of them.
Okay. Showing the case of counsel with Mark's case exhibit 134.
Sure.
I'm going to show you what we're State's Exhibit 134 and ask you to take a look at this for me. And can you tell the jury if you recognize that piece of equipment?
Yes, ma'am.
How do you recognize that?
That is the phone from Tara Grinstead's bedroom.
And is that in fact the original phone from Tara Grinstead's residence?
It is.
Have you had, the judge at this time, the state is tendering evidence, State's Exhibit 134.
Any objection?
No, Judge.
Submitted without objection.
Have you had a chance in the recent past to see if this phone actually still works?
Yes, ma'am.
And does it still work as far as turn on?
The answer machine portion does work. Yes, it does as far as turn on.
And the messages on that answering machine, are they consistent with what you heard when you were recording them back in 2005?
Yes, they are.
So to be clear though, let me ask this. When you were recording them, did you have to start over recording?
Yes, originally it showed 28 messages on the answer machine. When we started recording, a call came in, interrupted the recording. We had to start it over, and it showed 29 messages. And then by the time we actually finished and had everything retrieved, there was 30 messages. So people were still calling.
And did you have any personal knowledge as to whether or not anyone had played those messages before you arrived at the crime scene?
No.
So as sitting here today, do you have any personal knowledge of that?
No, do not.
Judge, if you don't mind, I'd like to have Ada Godry step down for me. And I'm going to let you do this so I don't match the wrong button, press the wrong button. But if you can, will you please play the messages that are on that extra machine for us?
You have 30 old messages. Thursday, 6:22 p.m.
Hey Tara, this is Tara. I'm just worried about you. Just gonna check on you. Just you can give me a call later if you want to. If you don't feel like it, that's okay. I just want to check on you. See you later. Bye bye.
Thursday, 9:41 p.m.
Rude when you don't call folks back. Hope you get the message. Bye.
Saturday, 7:48 p.m.
Okay, let's see.
Friday, 5:47 p.m.
Hey Tara, this is Tommy Griffin. I'm sorry to bother you again, but I thought we might better touch base before tomorrow. If you give me a call, 415-203. Thanks very much. Bye.
Sunday, 10:10 a.m.
Huh? Hey, this call to tell you good morning, baby. You need to call at church.
Sunday, 12:10 p.m.
Hey, Harry, this call. Talk to you, spoke to you this morning. At church, nursery. That man, sorry. Give a call.
Sunday, 2:27 p.m.
Hey, I don't know, hey, take me to come see you if you don't like your phone. Give me a call, let me know what's up.
Sunday, 2:46 p.m.
Hey, trying to figure out what I need to do this afternoon. Get this message, give me a call. It's about 2:45. I'm in Hawkinsville. I was going to shoot over that way. You're not going to be there. Thanks.
Sunday, 3:15 p.m.
There because I need to make a decision whether I'm going or not. I can see you today if I could. Alright. My wife hadn't heard from me today, but she just out there or something. Give me a call when you can. Later.
Sunday, 3:39 p.m.
Hey, I'm in Hawkinsville. I reckon you're not going to answer the phone, or I don't know what's going on. I'm kind of worried about you since you not have called me all day. Since we leave that phone by now several times. I reckon give me a call. I'll go get on the deer stand. Sure would like to see you this afternoon. I thought I told you yesterday I want to come see you. I just got. Anyway, hope you're alright. I'm here from Sunday, 4:44 p.m. Sunday, 5:25 p.m. Sunday, 6:23 p.m. Sunday, 6:26 p.m. I think it's there. We need to pay for that. Okay. Sunday, 7:34 p.m. Okay, could I please do this, Mom? I'm trying to get word about you now. Okay, just let me know you're alright. If you're there. Not like you, not tomorrow all day. Please let me hear from you. Sunday, 9:07 p.m. I was impressed. Anyway, just about 2 miles from Athens, and for the morning I've got speedings over in Carrollton, and then I got a flight in Philadelphia for the day, and then I'll be heading down to the Georgia Florida game, and I'll be staying over down and kind of looking around South Georgia next week. Cindy's going to be in for a training at middle school on Wednesday, so I make sure I be there for that. Anyway, keep calling us at 608-502-4946. Hope to catch up. Sunday, 9:40 p.m. Please pick up the phone. Are you not answering the phone? I went up down to you. Pick up. Please call. Sunday, 10:11 p.m. Sarah, will you please pick up if you're there? Hello? Hello? Sunday, 11:25 p.m. And there's me. I'm outside if he comes up in the door. Me. Sunday, 11:44 p.m. Let's drive all the way down here. Monday, 12:28 a.m. Hey, Tara. Worried about you, and I'm calling your mama now. She said she can't get hold of you either. If you let me know you're alright, I appreciate it. Just tell me you're okay. If you don't want to talk, that's fine. Let me know you're okay. Alright. Get this next installment. Love you, Papa. Monday, 12:45
a.m. 7:30, I ain't heard from you, baby. Please let me know you're all right. Monday, 7:31 a.m. Hey, Tara, I'm just gonna check on you this morning, dear. See ya. Monday, 7:38 a.m.
Tara, this is about 4:08 Monday morning. Please give me a call when you get home. I'm really worried.
Monday, 10:19 a.m.
Hey, this is Anita. Is anybody there? Would you please pick up?
Monday, 9:02 p.m.
Miss Grinstead, this is Kenyatta. Will you get this message? Please call me back at 325-0526.
End of messages.
Agent Audrey, when someone called Ms. Grinstead's number and called this particular phone that we have been listening to, would they have gotten any sort of outgoing message?
Yes,
And is that outgoing message still saved on this device?
it is.
Can I get you to please step down and play that for us?
Change announcement.
Hello. If you leave a message, I'll call you back. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Based on the way this phone was set up on October 24th of 2005, could anyone have called this particular phone and not heard that outgoing message?
No, not if they called it and let it ring long enough for somebody to pick up or the answer machine to.
Okay. And then, gonna see if I can do this. You see, nope, I had it the right way the first time. Can you see, sorry, yeah, thank you. The phone on the screen in front of you?
Yes, ma'am.
And again, for our jurors who may not have ever had a home phone, can you tell us what we're looking at with this phone?
It's the AT&T handset that's cordless that goes with the answering machine telephone there.
Okay. And this particular screen in the top of the phone, what is that screen?
That's an LCD screen.
Okay. What is an LCD screen?
Liquid crystal display.
What would this display, this particular screen display?
It would display the numbers that you dial when you're calling. It would display anything saved on that telephone that you're scrolling through. Your caller IDs, directories, anything like that is what that is for.
Okay, so if I were to dial numbers here, should they be showing on that screen?
They should.
Are they showing on that screen?
No, they're not.
Why are they not showing on that screen?
The LCD display right now is not working.
Okay. Prior to the last few weeks, had you had a chance to look at this phone since 2005?
Yes.
When did you last look at that phone?
Prior to
the last few weeks, yes.
2019.
Okay. And when you looked at that phone in 2019, did you plug it up like we've done today?
I did.
At that point, was the LCD screen working?
It was. Noticed a couple of lines. It's made up of lines. A couple of them were out, but it worked pretty good.
Okay. Have you researched how you believe you can fix this LCD screen?
Two things normally go bad with the LCD screens. The screen itself goes bad, or there's a conductive ribbon that attaches the LCD screen to the circuit board. And it is attached with a adhesive. It's a conductive adhesive. And with age, sometimes they don't always come loose, but they lose their connectivity. So you would have to heat them and get them to hopefully make contact again.
Okay. And is that something that you think you probably know how to do?
I can.
Okay. However, have you attempted that at this point? Have you done that on this particular phone?
I have not.
Going back to 2005, when you, actually I'm gonna leave that up there, when you looked at this phone, in addition to listening to the messages and recording them, did you also look at the caller ID?
I did.
And did you document the caller ID?
I did.
When I say the caller ID, did you document every single caller ID that was showing on that screen?
Yes, I did.
And did you document, would it show times?
It would.
Would it show dates?
It would.
Did it show the number that was calling?
Yes.
And occasionally would it show either a name or, let's say, cell phone or something of that nature?
Yes.
And caller ID, what we refer to as caller ID on those types of phones, are they very similar to what we're just used to now on cell phones?
Yes, the technology's older. Caller ID was different back then. A lot of it depended on if you subscribed to it or not, and if the incoming call and you both, well, where the call was placed would have to have caller ID capabilities, and then you would have caller ID on your phones. With cell phones and things nowadays, it's just there. As it comes in, it gives you a number. It's automatic.
And back in the day, we had to pay for caller ID.
We did.
Right? Okay. Showing opposing counsel on Martin States Exhibit 133. No approach witness?
Sure.
I'm going to show you what's been marked as States 133 and ask you if you recognize that.
Yes, ma'am.
How do you recognize that document?
It is the caller ID from the handset.
Okay.
And I have my initials there.
And when you say it's the caller ID from the handset, is that essentially a recording or a documentation of what you saw that day?
It is.
Okay. And at the time that you were looking at the caller ID, did you take hand notes about dates, times, and who was calling?
Yes,
And then at some point, was a list of that nature created?
it was.
Now, did you create that list?
We would dictate back then all of our notes when we interviewed someone or anything we did.
Yes,
Turn
sir.
it into the office manager. It was called an investigative assistant at that time. And they would type everything for us, and then we would review it and go back over and sign off on it. Yes.
Okay, so while you didn't personally type that list, was it created from your personal knowledge from viewing the machine?
Yes, it was.
In 2019, when you looked back at the caller ID, were you able again to see some of the notes? Or some of the date times?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, you can see them pretty
Now,
good there.
That particular document that you're looking at, do you know if any of the dates, times, or other information on there is incorrect based on what you saw in 19?
Yes.
And how many of those are incorrect?
4.
And what is it that's incorrect about them?
Starting on the 24th, which would have been the Monday, the first call in is showing at 12:38 a.m. and the whole list is in sequential order, starting with the oldest all the way up to the most recent. And you have 12:38, 12:38, 12:37, 12:35, which is not in order, and then it jumps to 7:30 and gets back in order. And those 4 were all at 12:33 a.m.
However, is that how the list was created and documented in the case file?
It is.
Other than those 4 times that should have all been 12:33, is that document accurate to what you viewed on the caller ID back in 2005?
Yes.
And sitting here today, do you have any actual independent recollection of what dates, times, and calls came in on that caller ID?
Very few.
Okay. When you say very few, is there one or more that jumps out at you?
There's one.
Okay. And that particular one, why did that stick in your recollection?
It is the first call on Sunday morning, the 23rd, and it came from a payphone.
Okay. And is that something that even back in 2005 on October 24th jumped out at you?
A little bit.
Okay. Other than that particular phone call, again, do you have any specific recollection where you can tell this jury that on 10/23 at this time, this person called? Is that a no?
That's a no.
However, the document in front of you, is that a recorded recollection that was made back then to assist you in documenting that information?
Yes, it was.
Your Honor, at this time, we would tender in the evidence State's Exhibit 133.
All right, any objection to board ire as to that document?
Yes, Judge, we would object. This is a list that he created, it's similar to the police report, a summary that he typed and he created, or actually somebody else did. He dictated it and then created it. And so it's improper for it, just like a police report or something else that was dictated, a transcript, it's improper. Also, Judge.
Why is that improper?
Police reports are not admissible into evidence, Judge, because we have a live witness who testifies. Just like transcripts of their testimony are not admissible into evidence. He can testify about his personal knowledge, but can he type up a testimonial summary and that actually be introduced into evidence? No. And furthermore, this is what business records are for, certified phone business records. What he typed is not
For the board here as to its authenticity, so.
He would object to the authenticity, and I'd ask for one hearing on that.
That's fine, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So the summary that the state presented to you, that is something you hand wrote at the scene and then later dictated to someone else and they typed it?
It would have been written or recorded on a recorder at the scene as I looked at the handset and then turned in for type. Yes, I didn't type it out myself.
Okay. And why would you rely on that and not the actual phone records?
This was...
That does go beyond the scope of authenticity. That's
What's that got to do with authenticity? I get that's to the credibility, but not
the
the
credibility
authenticity.
of the document.
Which is not related to authenticity.
Okay.
So I sustain that objection.
Thank you, Judge.
So who dictated that, or who typed that?
My actual report?
No, that actual document, who typed it?
This document, I'm not sure. My report, it would have been DeVita Hatchett.
Okay, but you're not sure who typed that document?
Not this one. I checked it against my document.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. That's submitted over your objections, timely made and overruled for the record, reserved for the record. All right. That's 136, did you say?
133, Judge.
133, thank you.
And may I publish that to the jury?
Yes.
Okay. Are you able to see that exhibit in front of you, sir? Okay.
Yes.
On the screen? Sorry, I'm trying F1H.
No. No.
Now, before we move on, or number 30, can you tell the jury?
That is the first call to the telephone on morning at 9:26 a.m. and it is coming from the North Coast Pay.
Okay. Now, you mentioned earlier something about and conveyed that to other investigators in this case.
Yes.
And is that something that during the course of this investigation became a point of discussion amongst the agents working on the case?
It was.
Agent, do you know what I mean when I say guilty knowledge?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Can you tell? Page 2 of that document. And I know I've asked you this earlier, but now that they're able to see it, I want to be clear. On page 2 of this document, having reviewed the caller ID LCD screen in 2019, are there any times on here that are incorrect? Or anything that's on there that's incorrect? I apologize.
Yes, number 30. Yes, ma'am.
And again, looking at page 2 of 133, so the jurors can see what you've done if they can read it. Other than those changes you just made, When you had a chance to look at this phone again in 2019, did it display exactly the information that's on this particular document now?
Yes.
Okay. And to be clear, the phone call that we've discussed, that you referenced as North Coast Pay, line 30.
Yes, ma'am.
When you looked at this phone in 2019, was that North Coast Pay still showing?
It was.
In addition to completing or documenting the actual calls, did you also have a chance to go through her, what we then would have called a home directory?
Yes.
Okay, I think we just call them contacts now, but back then it was referred to as a directory.
Yes, ma'am.
Show you page, sorry, page Council Mark States Exhibit 137. Madam Correct, Judge?
Yes.
Okay.
That number.
And have you had a chance to compare, well, I guess first of all, how do you know that States 137 is consistent with what you saw from that phone?
I've compared that with my case file and.
Okay. And again, is that something that you would have documented that particular day?
It is.
And is this a true and accurate recording? Well, let me ask you this first. Sitting here today, can you tell this jury that you have personal knowledge that you remember all of her contacts that were in her home phone?
I don't remember all of them.
Is this a recorded recollection of what was in her home phone?
Yes.
Your Honor, at this time I would tender an evidence States Exhibit 137.
All right, any objection of board hours to 137?
Never see, is that, I haven't seen it. Oh, that, no, I'm sorry, I thought it was the other one. Yes, no objection to that.
That's admitted without objection.
May I publish that to the jury?
Sure.
Thank you. Okay, so again, this particular document, 137, where did that information come from?
The handset on the telephone number is the directory.
Okay. May I have just a moment, Judge?
Some more than anything? You okay?
I'm good, thank you, sir.
At some point, did you or someone else related to this investigation create a table that is essentially a transcript of the recorded phone calls in addition to information about who made the call and what time it came in?
Yes.
Showing the code of Council Mark States Exhibit 136. Show you what's been marked as States Exhibit 136. Ask you to take a look at that for me, please. It's a couple pages, a few pages.
Is this a compilation of the voicemail messages we just heard?
It is, Judge, with some other things. I'm going to ask you a few more questions about it, but yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
So that was going to be my question. Is that something that was created in this case file to document in writing the audio messages as best as you could?
Yes, it was.
And to be clear again, is that something that you personally typed up?
I did not.
However, was that contained within the case file in this case?
It was.
And are you familiar with it?
Yes.
When we look at this, States Exhibit 136, the columns that we see here, the information about day, date, time, and message, where would that information have come from?
The answering machine
Okay.
that we listened to.
The information about well, let me skip over that. The information about the number, where would that have come from?
That would have come from known telephone numbers that we had for these people calling in phone records.
And then the information about from, toll time, and tower, where would that information have come from?
This particular total time here would come from the answer machine. So as it played, it said at whatever time.
Okay.
And then
So then why do we have a time and a toll time is my question.
I'm sorry, you're correct. Yes, this is what it says from the answer machine. That total time would come from phone records.
Okay, so to be clear, up until, well, let me ask you, the from column, be clear on that. Do you know if that would have come from the recordings themselves or from knowledge of law enforcement?
Probably some of both.
Okay, but so take that off. These first 4 columns, day, date, time, messages, is that information that all comes from the recordings we've already heard?
It is.
Okay. Your Honor, at this point, I would move to tender State's Exhibit 136, but only publish the portions that we've just discussed that came from the way it's made. It's not an Excel spreadsheet I can edit myself.
Right. All right, what columns, again, do you want to publish?
Just going through the content of the messages would be from date, time.
So the first 4 columns?
Yes, sir. And from would be from and over would not be displayed at this time.
Okay. Y'all have a copy of this?
We don't, but we've received one. I didn't get one today.
All right.
We've received one in discovery.
Any objection to?
No,
No objection.
not to what she's talking about.
The first 4 columns.
Thank you.
All right, you can exhibit the first 4 columns to the,
Came in from the answer machine and the date.
Okay.
Yeah, and the day.
I'm going to see if I'm intelligent enough to figure out how to zoom in on this thing. The answer's probably no.
Oh, there we go.
Okay, that helped? Okay, so for instance, I want to skip down to October 23rd. On the date that you were recording this information, what date would that have been?
The 24th.
Okay. And again, we have the day of the week. Is that what this means?
Yes.
And then the date, where would that information have come from?
The recorder itself.
And then the answering machine messages.
Yes, they came from the recorder itself.
Okay. And again, moving to page 2 of that document. Are we looking essentially at the same thing?
Yes.
Now, when it says hang up, what does that mean?
That means someone called the phone long enough for the answering machine to pick up and record that there was a message, but nobody said anything and they hung up, so there's nothing there.
So you just made a statement about that the phone rang long enough for the answering machine to pick up. Again, for those who have never had an answering machine, can you tell us what you mean by that?
Yes. Sometimes when you call a phone, and it depends on how the phone is set up, how many times it's going to ring before the answering machine picks up. This type phone, if as soon as the answering machine picked up, you hung up, or that a call actually came through to that machine, but just a few seconds may make the difference in it recorded that this is a message, but nobody left one and they hung up. So it's got to do with how long they hold the phone or how long it is until they hang up, whether it actually records it or not.
Okay. I want to go back to page 1 and ask you some questions about that. Looking at the information from the answering machine, what is the time of the first call that is made on October 23rd, that Sunday?
I can't see it. You have to scoot it up just a little bit. October 23rd, that's Sunday.
Yes, sir.
From the answer machine, it's 10:10 a.m. is the first message that was left that the answer machine actually recorded or picked up.
Now, I'm going to show you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 133 and already entered. Looking at this North Coast Pay call that we've talked about earlier.
Yes.
I'm going to try to put it all there together. Does that phone call show on the answering machine?
It does not.
Does it even show as a hang-up on the answering machine?
It does not.
based on your knowledge of this machine and just answering machines in general, what does that tell you about the call from North Coast Pay?
When it was answered, it was an immediate hang up.
Okay. And just so, because I haven't shown it yet, looking at page 3 of the answering machine messages. Again, would these be transcripts of the messages that we heard before?
Yes.
Okay. And this last call, this 9:02 p.m. on Monday, well, I guess let me ask you, do you know which of these calls, if any, is the call that came in while you were actually recording the original messages?
It's hard to say.
Okay.
But if possibly that 902, but I don't, it's hard to tell.
Okay, that's fine. And that particular recording, again, is that something that was turned over itself?
Yes.
Now, when you made that recording, was it made with a CD or with a device, recording device that has memory in it?
It was.
What kind of recording device did you use to actually record the calls off of that answering machine?
It's a mini CD that is encased. It's encased in a plastic holder, kind of like an old floppy disk type thing, but the CD is in the middle of it. So it's actually a CD, but it's just the format at that time period that was being used.
And in 2005, was that pretty high tech at the time?
It was in 2005.
Okay. In 2022, do we have many devices that would still play that original?
No.
Okay. I want to play you just a portion of an exhibit that's already been tendered for comparison. Is that going to be 200 that was the disc? Do you want to call?
Yeah.
Thank you, Judge. Ms. Borshia. Start that. So we missed first of it. Okay, there we go. Restart states 200.
Oh, this is 200.
200.
That you're playing now. Thank
Yes,
you.
Your Honor. I'm going to stop it right there at 1 minute 21 seconds. Having had a chance to listen to a portion of States 200, do you recognize that?
Yes.
And how do you recognize that?
That is the recording of the answer machine from the October 24th, 2005.
Are there any messages on the recording you made that were not heard in open court today?
No.
I'm going to change gears here for a moment. In this particular case, in addition to gathering the actual phone and the records that we've discussed, did you also take anything, sorry, I apologize, I'm going to thank you. Did you take anything into evidence from Ms. Grinstead's room?
Yes.
And what did you take into evidence from her room?
A photograph from a picture frame.
Why did you take the photograph?
At that time, she's a missing person, so we're trying to get the word out for people to be on the lookout for Ms. Grinstead. So we needed a good photograph.
Okay. I'm going to show you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 135 and ask you if you recognize that.
I do.
How do you recognize that?
It's the photo I took on October the 24th from her bedroom.
And to be clear, when you say you took the photo, you didn't actually take it with a camera. You physically took the photo?
I physically
removed
the photo and took it with me, yes.
And is that the original photo that you removed from Tara Grinstead's bedroom?
It is.
Your Honor, at this time, I will tender in evidence State's Exhibit 135.
Objection. That's admitted without objection. State's 135. Thank you.
Okay. Displaying State's Exhibit 135 on the screen. Again, is this the original picture that you took from her bedroom?
Yes, it is.
And do you recall where you took that picture from her bedroom?
It was in a picture frame. As you come in the bedroom, you enter the bedroom from the, make sure I get my direction right, the southeast corner, and it was a corner-fed room, meaning the door, you entered from the corner of the room instead of the middle of the room. Directly down that wall, there's a chest of drawers. Beside it, another shelf and some other items on the wall there, and it was on the wall, but on the shelf. It leaned up against the wall, pushed all the way against the wall on the shelf.
Just a moment, please. And the phone as well that we've been talking about, where was that phone located when you took it on October 24th?
It was located on the nightstand, right by the bed.
So I'm going to show you, first of all, it's been already entered at State's Exhibit 114. And if I can ask you to step down here for me, please.
Okay.
It's going to be a lot easier down here, I promise. Can I get you to point to the jury or point out to the jury where that particular frame and photograph were located on October 24th of 2005?
It's been on the shelf right here.
You got to do it under here.
I'm sorry. Where are we going now? Where's my finger?
Hey, look, you can just look at it right on there.
No, it's been right up here on the shelf.
Okay. And have you had a chance to look at pictures in this case that were taken by both Bill Bars and Jeff Rossler? Let's see, thank you. In the pictures that Bill Bars took, are you able to see that picture, that being this particular picture of Tara, still in the frame?
Yes.
And in the pictures then that Agent Rossler took, are you able to see that's been removed?
Yes.
Additionally, the phone that we've been discussing, I'm going to display States 56. Now, do you recognize whether the phone is in this particular photograph?
It is.
And again, you indicate it's on the nightstand, is that right?
It is. That's it right above your finger.
Now, when you saw the phone, was the handset off as it is here?
No, the handset was on the phone when we got in there.
And to your knowledge, again, have you actually seen these pictures that Bill Bars took before?
I have.
And to your knowledge, again, when he took his pictures, is this going to be one that it was off because Bill, I'm going to ask this better. In the pictures where we have the phone not in the handset, is that going to be pictures that were taken before GBI arrived on scene?
They were.
So the pictures where we see the phone in the cradle, those are going to be GBI pictures?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Did you collect any other physical evidence in this case?
Yes.
Computers. Okay. What else did you collect in this case?
Computers from her, I call it the computer room, but it's a second bedroom that she used as a computer room.
Okay. And what was done with those computers?
They were transported to Houston County Sheriff's Department for analysis.
Okay. I'm going to show you which one is the laptop. Show you first the home computer that Mr. Rigby is so kindly carrying for me because it's heavy. States Exhibit 142. And then the laptop states Exhibit 143. While he's doing all that, you can look at 143 for me, please.
Okay.
Wherever it'll fit.
I can just hold it. Go ahead.
Okay.
Having looked at State's Exhibit 143, do you recognize that?
I do.
What do you recognize that to be?
This is the laptop that I retrieved from the second bedroom or computer room.
And is that the same laptop that was then turned over to Houston County to be, to have a download done on it?
It was. Or it is.
It is. And in State's Exhibit 142, do you recognize that?
Yes, I do.
And what do you recognize that to be?
That is the home computer or tower computer from that computer room.
And who seized that particular computer?
I did.
And what was done with that computer after you seized it?
Took it to turn it over to Houston County for analysis.
And I'm sure that we can see what you're doing, but just so the jurors understand, these documents that you're looking at, what are those?
Those are our property receipts, and
Did you do that?
I did not.
However, did you directly turn those over to Houston County?
I did. Kitchen, there's a small desk in the kitchen area of Miss Grinstead's residence, and it's papers, a little red address book, got some photocopies and things like that in it, business cards.
Okay. And the document that you have in front of you, does that appear that it's been open since you originally took the items of evidence, if you can tell?
Yeah, this here? Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Take a look at that inside and make sure that's what's inside and what it says on the outside.
A lot of credit card statements. I'm looking for the red address book. I don't see the red address book.
Okay. How do you recognize States 144?
It's got my initials on the back of it where I sealed it.
Okay.
And it's a buckle swab kit.
After you sealed this particular document, does it appear it's ever been opened again?
Yes.
And can you tell, looking at that, your years of experience, where it's been opened?
Here at the top with this evidence.
Don't display it to them quite yet, please. But
This evidence tape here.
Yes, sir.
Is not our evidence tape. It would be at the lab.
Okay.
This is ours.
And you've just identified them as buccal swabs. With those, from whom did you collect those buccal swabs?
This one from Heath Dykes.
And other than it being opened at the lab, is that the same condition as when you saw it after you collected it?
Yes.
Can you tell the jury how you go about collecting buccal swabs?
Yes, there's a couple of swabs, and you actually have a kit, like that is a kit. And you scrub the buccal swabs on the cheek, inside cheek of the person you're taking a swab from, place them inside. I did some interviews, yes, but not at the residence.
Show you one more piece of evidence. What's been marked as State's Exhibit 168, and ask you if you recognize that.
Yes.
What do you recognize that to be?
Yeah, it's a missing poster of Tara Grinstead.
Okay. And that particular poster, the picture that was used, do you recognize that picture?
Yes.
How do you recognize that picture?
It's the picture from the picture frame I took from the bedroom.
Your Honor, at this time, I would tender into evidence State's Exhibit 168.
Any objection?
No objection.
168 is admitted without objection. Thank you.
Do you recall after these items have been collected and after Agent Rossler processed the crime scene, if you ever entered the residence again with anyone else?
On another date?
No, that particular day, did you allow any of Tara's friends or families
Yes.
to come into the residence with you?
Yes, when we were about to leave, her sister Anita
Yes, sir.
came into the living room of the residence with myself and Agent Rossler and Dominic Turner. And Agent Turner turned over some items found out, or some money that was in the car during his search.
And was Miss Gaddis at that point allowed to look at other portions of the house to see if anything was out of place?
Yes.
And other than allowing Miss Gaddis into the house after it had been processed, did anyone else go in that house in your presence?
No.
That's all the questions I have at this time.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's take a lunch break. We'll be in recess for the lunch hour until 1:15. Let's everybody remain in place, ladies and gentlemen, while the jury exit the courtroom. Your lunch is waiting for you downstairs. Thank y'all. Y'all can head on down if you want to. Unless you need something in there.
Go out that way.
Step down.
Thank you.
Agent Baudry, thank you. How do you spell your last name, by the way?
B-O-D-R-E-Y.
Just like it sounds. So
Yes.
You got that in heaven?
Yes, thank you. We'll have your list to go back.
All right, y'all want to take up the items we were discussing this morning before we started to do over the lunch hour? Y'all want to wait till after you eat? You want to do it later this afternoon? Okay. I'll hear from you then, Mr. Merchant and Ms.
Assuming things don't slow down with the crime lab fix, I would say that as far as timing, the state could probably finish on Friday. However, I had learned that we had one of our experts who's coming from Texas. Because we are growing much faster than expected, she cannot be available until Monday morning. And so if we're done on Friday, I'm going to ask the court's indulgence to allow us to start Monday, but that would be, either that would be our last witness or the next to the last witness.
So, yeah, y'all are protected until mid-morning, Monday. How about that? All right. Thank y'all so much, Ms. Hart. You got
I did.
if you can think of them now, fine if you can.
You just put me on the spot as to what they were. I remember, Judge. I anticipate that the confession that the defendant gave will be played either tomorrow or the next day. I anticipate tomorrow. In going through the interview.
Is that video and audio or just audio?
It's both and it's separate. It's booking information and also the ride to Ben Hill County, and then there's video once they get out there as well.
All right.
So it's a little bit of both.
How long?
Total, hour and a half to 2 hours.
You intend to play all of it?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
They're separate. They're considered separate portions of the interview, so they're separate exhibits, but total, I would say about an hour and a half,
Any
2 hours.
issues about redaction or anything?
That's what I wanted to bring up. So previously, obviously, I had intended to redact anything that was bad character evidence. They do discuss his prior, I believe they discussed briefly his prior DUI, the fact that he went AWOL from the military, those sorts of things. At this point, based on Your Honor's ruling yesterday, I don't believe that that would be required, given that the good character evidence has come in. The two things I specifically, no, there's a third one that I specifically remember where he talks about how he will lose his temper and get angry at people and those sorts of things. So the state no longer intends to redact those. But I did have, wanted to just put on the record and see where we were going with, there is several portions in that audio, particularly the audio, in which Agent Shadell makes comments, well, Bo told me this, Bo told me that. It would be the state's position that that would be improper hearsay to come in based on the court's prior ruling. There's certainly a confrontation clause issue for Agent Shadell to state what Bo told him. So my intention has been to mute those portions. Additionally, during at least one of those conversations where he's talking about Bo told me this, he also does make a comment where he says, I believe Bo and I believe you. Again, it's the state's position. While that could be argued as strategy during the interview, it's the state's position that that is a comment on the believability of the witnesses. And so our intention had been to redact that.
As to the defendant and Bo?
Yes, Your Honor, because I don't believe that would be appropriate. That being said, based on defense counsel's opening statement, I don't have an objection to those things being played, but I am just stating in my place that I believe that they do not come in. And so it would be my intent to redact and mute those portions so that we don't have any improper hearsay from Bo through Agent Shadell.
What was it about the opening statement?
She specifically referenced something, Bo told us this, and then she also referenced one of the times in which Agent Shadell tells Ryan, I believed him and I believe you. Again, it would be my understanding of the law is neither of those things would be admissible, and so I would be intending to redact that, but I just wanted to make sure I have answers as to that before we start.
I don't remember what I remember some reference to Agent Shadell's tactics.
Yes.
She called into question. I don't remember exactly which ones they were. It'll be in the record, but y'all want to comment on this now? You want to look over what, you know?
Yeah, Your Honor, if the court would allow us, we'd like to discuss that at lunch.
We can do it in the morning. You want to?
In the morning, it would be great.
But the only problem with the morning is I believe that it's going to be played tomorrow, and it's gonna, I have the times, but it'll take me several hours.
Where that is on the computer pretty quick, or the CDs.
Like after lunch, so you can hear it?
No.
Okay.
No, not that. Y'all got to get something to eat too. Will it be as painstaking to delete any of that if we decide that way to go?
It just means out of precaution, I'm going to re-listen to them anyway, but it means I have to re-listen about 20 times to make sure I have the seconds correct.
Okay.
So that there's no mistakes. So again, I can do that if that's what I need to do, but I would prefer, that's what I do with my opening, and it took several hours and then it didn't work out. It's just wasted time. So I prefer not to do that if it's coming in.
What happened? Did it just...
When Your Honor turned off the system, it's because it was reacting to the microphones from the media, that's the system that needed to play.
Did I turn off the